You are listening to the Adapt Performance Podcast, where we aim to make elite level strength and conditioning accessible to everybody. I'm your host, Jordan Webster, and let's get into the episode. Like today, do a bit of podcasting, do a few programs, go play golf, come back, do an hour of check-ins, like stuff like that. I think that's the way that I see my life working. We went on holiday, and I genuinely think when I go on holidays in the future, like doing 2 or 3 1-week holidays a year, I'll just have like a full morning a couple of times just to bloody tap away. I enjoy it. Like I actually just think, fucking, this is sick. And I bet you're very much the same.
Yeah, mate. We went away probably 6 weeks ago, just for 5 days. Mrs. had just finished uni, so we said we're going to get away, just get a little bit of sun. And I was very much the same. Like, it's hard when you're running a business to try and switch off, because you don't really want to switch off. As much as you say to your partner or your friends you're going to switch off, mate, my head's going like all the time. So it was a case of, right, where can I plug in just a little half an hour on my laptop, just making sure that, you know, things are going okay, checking in, etc. But like you say, you don't want to have those days off, although you do and you feel like you need it. Actually, you feel better once you've done a little bit of work. I always find anyway. And I feel like I can relax if I know I've ticked off those things that I need to do.
Mm-hmm. It's such a mad thing, isn't it? Because I definitely have those same thought processes where I'm like, fucking hell, I'm working here. I'm doing like, 7 days on the trot or whatever. I'm going to take an evening. I get to the evening, I'm like, I'm bored. If you don't have anything planned, it's like you just want to lob the phone in the fucking opposite side of the room and just never go on the thing. These little bastards, mate. Horrible. Hate them. Obviously sick, but it's like, it's... When the business is linked to your self-worth in a lot of ways, social media is literally gamification of you as a person. It's tricky. You can see why people get so addicted. I think we're going to see some fucking mental health explosions over the next 20 years.
It's funny because I said to me and Mrs. have this conversation probably too often about you're on your phone a lot. I was like, I know, because it's my work. But like so on certain times I will put my phone away and we'll go out without my phone. I say, right, you take your phone. If people need to get hold of me, we can, if there's any emergency, they'll ring you. And I don't miss it. I do not miss my phone. So it's not a case of I'm addicted to it and I just need to be scrolling. It's a case of my work's on there, so I'm literally always checking it. Because it's funny about the days off, actually. I was having a conversation with a client today, and he's just saying how, like, I feel pretty fried. I was like, okay, mate, why? Like, I've literally deloaded your gym for the last 2 weeks. You're only doing 2 sessions a week. So I haven't had a day off. I haven't had a day off since January of work. I'm like, shit. Like, he runs his own business. He's up and down the country. Although he might not be working on a Saturday or Sunday, he's traveling to his next point where he's got work. I'm like, right, we really need to sort this out. But it's funny, isn't it? Because I don't really have that issue with regards to work taking a toll on my training, and you add that training on top of their work-life balance, and all these things you've got to kind of take into account. And then pre-season's around the corner. It's actually, how am I going to manage this? And I'm going down a different sort of tangent here, but how am I going to manage this athlete's mental health, physical health, and just well-being, and making sure that we don't just completely fry him off and then he's going to lose a love for training. So it's an interesting one, isn't it? And I think you can almost overdo it sometimes with regards to work. You actually do need to just hit that kind of reset button.
It's tricky. And I think, mate, traveling is such a bastard when it comes to just training and work-life balance in general. I think sitting in the car for, 45 minutes to an hour every single day, it's 10 hours at the end of the week. You've now just turned your 40-hour job into 50. Particularly in winter, it's just like you live in darkness. And it is tricky. I think it might have been, was it Tim Ferriss or another big wig in the wellness space. He was like, just make sure wherever your job is that you do not live more than 20 minutes away, because it is just like the number one thing that will creep in. And I'm like, you know what? Like, we all don't have the luxury of doing that, of moving to your work. So obviously you're tied down and you've got a partner and they have work and stuff like that. But I definitely feel that. I hate it when I have to do too much driving. Like, I live on the outskirts of Sheffield at the minute, so it probably takes me about 30 minutes to get into Sheffield, but I'm only going in once. I'm not doing a split shift of like sessions. Like, I'm there or I'm not. it means I lose a little bit of work actually. Like I've lost a fair bit where I'm just like, I don't want to do it because I hate being sat in the car. It just pisses me off.
Yeah, mate, it's a funny one, isn't it? Those kind of split shifts where you're in early morning and then you're in the evening. They do take it. They do take its toll. I remember when I was at Chiefs, actually, we used to have a lot of our times where in the morning we'll be with like the under 21s or the under 18s, and then in the evening we'll be with the under 15s. And you're like, right, I've got these hours in the day now. Do I stay in Exeter or do I go? Do I go back home? And I I don't mind travel too much. I've actually I've just stopped working in Exeter now, which is actually a bit of a saviour. But I didn't
Mm.
mind it because I'd actually started just getting the train in. I'm quite lucky we got a train station, so it's literally a half an hour train, and I can get a laptop out or I can listen to a podcast. So I found that quite a good way. But like you say, when you're stuck in a car and then you get stuck in traffic, your mind goes crazy. And like you say, it just adds on that extra hour or 2 hours a day, doesn't it, to your day?
One of so I had a business mentor, Dan Lawrence, and he was such a wizard. Like his life is like an I can't even think of it. It's super orchestrated. So if he's driving 2 hours to Matchroom Boxing and he was the SNC coach there, he will fill that 2 hours with, client calls with us, and it's
Mm.
like, but if he just had it down to an absolute art. And I think if you can do that from a travel perspective, use it for, self-development, speak to your coach or whatever, I think that's the way to go. That's my going back to what you said earlier, actually, before I forget it, leaving your phone at home and going out for a walk or going out for the evening, unreal. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm that guy in the wilderness that's just floating around. I feel like a caveman. I could do anything. I got into the habit of doing that a few months ago, and I was saying to the missus, right, I'm off on my walk. I'm going to leave my phone here if that's all right. And she was like, what do you mean? What if something happens? I'm like, what do you mean if something happens? And she's like, well, what if something happens to you? I'm like, I'm fucking 30 years old. I'm walking around Kiverton Village. Like, I'm going to be all right. She's like, well, what if something happens to me? I'm like, it's so interesting how we've got that tie to it. Because she is right. Like, something could happen, an emergency
Yeah.
could happen. But I'm like, I should be able to go on a little walk, man. Just let us trot around. Let me get 10,000 steps and, drink a Diet Coke on the way. And that's
Yeah.
probably, other than like some, social occasions and those little bits of quality time you have with people, going on a walk without your phone, it's probably one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah. Did you go barefooted?
I do go barefooted, mate. Yeah, I'll take my top off. That's what I do. I grow it out. I plait this little bastard. Yeah. It's good
Mate,
shit.
to be fair, I'm actually moving to. This is big news. Actually, I'm moving to Australia in November, and the everyone's saying, mate, people don't wear shoes over there. Everyone is barefooted. Like you walk around Bondi, you won't see a pair of shoes anywhere. Everyone is barefooted. So yeah, I need to get used to it. All that grounding.
Man, it's mate. Grounded's one of those. Where do you sit with grounded, right? Like, what's your genuine? I feel better, right? And this is definitely me kind of going down the route of like, I need to be that hippie guy. But in the morning, I genuinely go out into the back garden. I don't have a top on. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit rainy. I prefer when it's not rainy. But just fucking stand there for 2 minutes. And I can remember reading an article a while ago, and it was about you go through the 5 senses, and you might pick 3 things that you can hear. Okay, well, what can I hear? I can hear the birds. I can hear the music in the background. And the same for sight, same for feel. And, just that 2 minutes, I am barefooted as well. I just feel fucking unreal. Like, that's a perfect start to the day for me. But I don't know if that's grounding or whether that's actually just getting outside with a little bit of sunlight on your face and a little bit of wind.
Mm. Mate, I'm with you. So we've just done a new patio in the garden, and where we've dug it up, we've had to soil and seed. So my morning routine at the moment is alarm goes off. I don't look at my phone because I was bad for like waking up, just checking socials or checking messages. And now, turn the alarm off, downstairs, barefoot, get the hose out, just start watering. I feel great, mate. I feel great.
Yeah.
I just start watering my soil, just hoping this grass is going to grow. But like you say, it's 2 minutes where you're outside, just in my boxers. And neighbours have got a nice little view, and I'm just watering the grass. And like you say, mate, to be fair, every time I do it, I do feel good. It's a little bit like cold water swimming. Now, I got into that in COVID, and I've dropped off a little bit of regards to, because we've had real bad sewage down here. So I've been a little bit reluctant to go in the sea over the winter, but it's just started to clear up now. But I'm a big one for that as well. And people, oh yeah, mental health. It's not about, well, it was a little bit about that for like during COVID, but now I just love it, and it makes me feel good after. So yeah, I'm all for it. I don't really. It's not about the recovery benefits. It's about actually just makes me feel good.
Yeah. I think if I was a better swimmer and I liked cold shit, I'd be more likely to do it. But I think I hate both of those things, so I'm probably just not. If
Yeah,
I'm
fair
not
enough.
seeing the bottom if I'm not seeing the floor, I'm just not swimming. There's not a chance. You can get fucked. Yeah, no way, mate. Right, we have gone everywhere and everywhere with this one.
Yeah.
Let's come back to some of the topics I've actually created. I probably will keep most of that in, to be fair.
Yeah.
But what's new? What's happening? Right, we're not going to do an intro, but we spoke. Must have been 6 months to a year ago. Like, has anything changed? What's happening in Train Right? What's happening with yourself?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, probably personally just planning a move over to Australia. Going to go over there, live over there for a little bit, play a bit of rugby, carry on the business. I've actually got quite a few clients that are actually over in Australia, which has given me a bit more of a pull to go. Actually, it can work while I'm over there. Obviously, a lot of the stuff's online, so I don't think too much is going to be affected. Obviously, time zones, etc. But that's going to be quite big. Moving away from the UK and moving away from the family and stuff. So that's in the pipeline for November. Business wise, we're doing pretty well. We've got the group coaching, which is the first kind of lift off we've had, and I think it's 3 months now of the group coaching, which has been brilliant. Just being able to offer a cheaper alternative to coaching and programming, and being able to access more people and give them the structure, because I think a lot of rugby athletes actually struggle with knowing what to do in their week and how much to do and when to do it. That's most of you're probably the same. Most of the people come with the same issues. I never get too many newbies that haven't trained at all. It's more people that have had their own gym experience for a certain amount of years, and now actually how can they sort of dial in into their own training and making sure that they're hitting all the right things in the week. So being able to kind of offer that at a much cheaper rate has been a really good thing for the business, and it's good to see a bunch of rugby athletes all striving for it.
How's that work from like a coaching? Do you just like write one program and then everyone kind of jumps in on it type of thing? Like, is that how it works?
So yeah, so it's a rolling program. So we've got it split into backs and forwards, and then southern and northern. So there'll be little nuances within those programs. Obviously, southern at the moment is very much in season programming, and backs and forwards there'll be slight different changes there with regards to certain focuses around robustness. Some of their main lists might look slightly different, but again, following very similar structure. Exactly the same for the northern hemisphere. What we tend to do is, obviously it's really hard to write a program for the masses and making sure that it fits their equipment needs, etc., etc. So the guys and girls can put in questions in the group, and we'll just give them alternatives, and we'll give them the resources to go, right, if they haven't got a sled, we want them to do this exercise instead, kind of thing. So there's almost that little bit of personalization if they want it, and the more questions that the athletes ask, the more they get, I guess. So it's working well, and I think, like I say, it's just about giving them the right structure to hopefully hit their training on Tuesday and Thursday and be ready for a Saturday match, really.
Man, that's unreal, and I think that itself is probably... Well, I think some of the problems with like template programs, because I've done them in the past, of like, right, here's a 16-week whatever, and obviously it's written down, and it's super hard to create a program that fits everyone's needs. It's literally impossible, because as soon as they don't have more than 20 kilo dumbbells, it's like, well, okay, that program isn't a strength program anymore, or whatever. So just that, what you said there, of having a little bit of personalization, a little bit of, bro, I can't do this, I don't have a trap bar, what's the next alternative? Okay, just do a barbell, mate, that'll be fine. Okay.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is just going to be a game changer for people, particularly if they don't need like the fully individualized, or don't particularly feel like, that's where they're at in their, playing career at the moment. I still think it's, a good thing for people to get towards and just do for a block of time, like the individualized stuff, like do 3 months, do 6 months, a year or whatever. And the lessons that you learn in that will just like transfer across the rest of your life. But that group coaching sounds sick. I think that's a really, really good idea. You've been getting good feedback.
Yeah, mate. To be fair, it's been pretty positive. I think a lot of people are just loving having, like I say, they know what they're going to do each week, and that it takes the guessing out of their gym work. I think that's the main kind of plug with regards to. I've been there myself, where you kind of go into your week, right? I'm going to do lowers, I'm going to do uppers, but actually, what's that lower and upper session going to consist of? And then it changes week on week. And just having that structure there, and they know what their goals are. They've got access to their history from last week, etc. So they can just really, they've got that accountability, and they can really track their progress. So I think overall, some of the feedback from some of the sessions, the conditions, speed sessions have been really positive, and I think everyone is enjoying it, other than the people that do drop in and drop out. You get a few people that subscribe, unsubscribe, subscribe, unsubscribe. So but yeah, it's good, mate. I think the people that stay on the program for the long haul are then gonna reap the rewards, really. So yeah, it'll be good to check in with a few of them, see how they're getting on.
Man, I love it. I love it. So do you basically do similar training to what they're doing then? So you said before we actually got onto the call and we started recording, pre-season's just kind of kicking off for you. Is that generally how you train? Is that how you structure everything for you?
Yeah, mate, pretty much. I was almost a little bit of the guinea pig with regards to in the off season, just trialing pre-season weeks. Mate, to be honest, if I'm totally honest, I haven't had personally a great off season. I've had stag do's, etc., and lots of social events. But again, like, my training's been very much. I do use myself a little bit as a guinea pig, and then I'll make sure I'm following something pretty structured, especially during pre-season and in season as well. But like me and Char tend to be fair, mate, we do get other coaches to coach for or program for us as well. We've used a few programs. I'm not sure if you're aware of Nathan Keeley. Used his program a fair bit, which again gives us great ideas, but also it's just another way of training. I think you got to be open to that as a coach. I think you can get sometimes stuck in your own ways, and actually you do need to have a little look outside of that box, because it's only going to benefit you as a coach as well and an athlete. So yeah. Constantly involving. I think probably we talked 12 months ago, there'll be certain things that I was programming 12 months ago compared to what I'm programming now, and there'll be little nuances and differences there. Big focus, mate, that we've had at the moment really is, so I'm going on a tangent, but our kind of speed focus in the gym, because a lot of people just think going outside and running and sprinting is enough, and actually sometimes it's not. If you really want to get the rewards, actually, how can we translate some speed work in the gym so those tissues are prepped nicely for high speed running? Because some people don't have the time as well in the week to be out on the pitch twice a week as well as in the gym 3 times a week. So actually, how can we be efficient and making sure that they're getting their biggest bang? So yeah, it's good, mate. It's good.
How does that look for you in terms of like gym work? When you're trying to get a little bit of transfer and that type of thing, is it like special prep exercises? Is that kind of what you're working with?
Mate, 100%. I think most of it will be in that kind of preparation block where it may be a bit of mobility activation, and then prior to kind of strength lifts, we'll look at some ankle stiffness, some positional work, some step throughs, some switches before going into like their lower body lift. I tend to stay away from it from the end of the session, just because I think if your quads are full of lactate from, I don't know, 3x20 on a leg extension where we're trying to get some mass on, I don't think they get the rewards of the jumps and the switches.
Yeah, 100%. I think, man, this is the problem, I guess, that I come into contact with the most with our rugby and American football guys, is like, how do we get, especially if their schedule is like really tight and they're working and they're on field or whatever, is like, how do we get that max V? That's the exposure. It's like, how do we get the max velocity stuff? Acceleration, a little bit easier logistically. It's like fucking getting a sports all or whatever. And it's difficult, it's really just trying to, that's where the communication stuff actually comes in. It's like, well, how can we make sure that we are getting that, whether it's pre-training? That tends to be my go-to strategy, actually. Is what can we get done pre-rugby, pre-American football? Can you get there 30 minutes before? Doesn't always work, but have you got any hot tips? Is there anything with that you kind of figured out from a max velocity standpoint?
Yeah, mate, it's an interesting one. We will always program pre-training speed, and that'll be their dose, especially now pre-season's around the corner. Now, one thing we do, it's very much minimal dose. We don't expect people to be doing 3 to 5 max velocity efforts pre-training, because normally what you'll see, if a pre-season's run pretty well, you'll normally see athletes hit at least one exposure, even if it's for 10 meters of top speed or 5 meters top speed. At least they're hitting that top speed. So, we may go 3 efforts where they build for 40 and they hold for 20. And that first effort maybe at 75, 85. And if you're feeling good at 85, let's really, take the leashes off and go for that 100%. But again, it will just be one effort, because I imagine on a Tuesday or Thursday, they're probably hitting it in session. And then we tend to just advise, just put in the group coaching actually, because a few of them are asking about what speed work to be done, and it's all in there, but they weren't sure actually, do we need to be max sprinting pre-training? I said, look, if you don't feel like you've hit it during your session, then post-session, just open up 1 or 2 efforts. And I think you will know individually if you've hit top speed, whether that's a chase back, whether that's a line break. So it's just asking the question, actually, can you just reflect on that session and go, did I hit top speed in that session? If you're not quite sure, you probably didn't. Normally, you're pretty clued in with regards to if you've hit top speed or not. We're a little bit lucky. I actually invested in a stat sport, mate, which has been a godsend, really, just because it gives you that in-time live data. I've had a few rehab runs in the last few weeks with a few lads, and just seeing what kind of stats and speed they're hitting is gold, really. I know a lot of people don't have that access, and unfortunately Garmin's don't track it. But mate, I think, again, in minimal dose, because I imagine they're going to hit top speed in the session. You'd hope so anyway, unless you're only doing like small dimensions. But again, just trying to give them dosage pre and then post.
Yeah, it's really tricky, and I think a couple of our guys have invested in like a little bit of GPS, to be fair. I think you can get some that are relatively cheap, doesn't need to be stat sport, but I think having some kind of metrics is quite nice. And what you said before of like, if the preseason is run pretty well, and I think that's the big question, isn't it? That's the tricky one sometimes, of just getting the club to be on the same page and not just fuck you up for the sake of it. Right then, you lazy fat guys, let's have it. But yeah, mate, that's sick. And with your own training, I guess that works from a social media perspective, doesn't it? Because it's just like, I'll just film the training I'm doing and there's your content. Like, it's the super easy, authentic, like, just has no friction involved.
Yeah, mate, 100%. I think social media is a minefield with regards to what do the viewers want, and a lot of followers, a lot of viewers just want free stuff, and that's why I went down the rabbit hole of trying to be educational right at the start. And actually, the biggest thing for me is, how can I target my audience as best as possible, and if they can have a snippet of what I do and what potentially I program for my clients or in the rugby performance program, then actually, they may be customers. So that's kind of my outlook. I'll try and give as much little bits of education as possible. I think what I would like to be doing in the short term now is just providing a little bit more longer form content. And I've just started with email lists and blogs and stuff like that. So that is coming. If people are on mailing lists and stuff, they'll get those kind of longer forms where actually probably delve into a little bit more of my kind of coaching philosophy, but coaching experiences as well. I think that's really important. Unfortunately, that sort of stuff doesn't hit well on the social media side of things, but I think it's very important to kind of build that trust as well, from follower to either customer.
Yeah. 100%. We've been hammering the email list actually for a little while, just being super consistent, one a week. Sometimes it's a little bit longer version, sometimes it's short, sometimes it's actually go listen to this podcast I just did with Harry, because it was unreal. So it just gives you an opportunity to, well, you'll know this, but go directly to them. You're not bound by Instagram deciding whether it's going to show you that piece of content. So that works. It also feels a little bit more personal. Like I get a lot of replies from emails because it is a personalized thing. It's like people connect with it, and it's they don't all hit. That's the reality of it. Sometimes they're just not interested, but I think that's cool. And obviously with the long form stuff is like you're building up a nice little battery now of podcasting stuff, you know, and I think that's just unreal because people, if they can listen to you, you know, chat bollocks for an hour, they're probably going to be more inclined to buy a program from you and get a coach from you. Like it just works. And also it's just easy to do. Like get on here, have a chat that we'd bloody like to be having anyway. Unreal.
Yeah. Mate, you should have pressed record half an hour before we started, eh?
That's it. I know, yeah. Mate, I didn't even actually check. I'll ask you this now. Have you got to be gone by a certain time?
No, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Yeah, I got
You're
loads of
good.
time. Have
You're
you?
good. I mean, I've got, I got golf in an hour and a half, so we'll be
Okay,
fine
yeah.
for that. To be
Yeah, I need
fair,
to be gone by
we'll
one.
smash that.
So, yeah.
One will work. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
excited. Well, yeah, I'm actually not excited about golf. To be fair, it's been a good 6 months since I've actually picked up a club, and I started jiu-jitsu again a month ago. So my body is absolutely ravaged to the extreme. If there is a day that I am likely to pull my back, it's 100% going to be this. So if I do pull my back and I have to like re-listen to this as I'm editing it, I'll be so fuming at myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm just looking forward to a nice little walkabout. You know, like 4 hours of just chilling with the boys, get some sweets on the go. You
Mate,
play?
100%. Yeah, it'd be lovely, mate. To be fair, golf's not. I went through a fad phase of golf, and it was just for one summer and one summer only. And I probably didn't play enough to get better, because more often than
Yeah.
not, I was just looking for balls, mate. But it's something that's on my list to go right. That could be a good kind of time just to switch off, have a bit of crack with the boys, outside, walking around, no social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think. Are you going to plan to play a lot this summer?
Mate, to be you going to Australia, that'll be a sick one. To be honest with
Yeah.
you, our physio, he did a year out in Australia, and he was just playing golf all the time. It seemed, you know, obviously mad scenery. If you're depending on where you are in Australia, crazy sun. I think it would just be sick. Am I
Yeah.
planning to play loads? I've lost the buzz for it, mate. I'm not going to lie. I'm just there for the social. I think it's the most frustrating game in the world. As soon as you put pressure on it, that's the reality of it. If you're just going to go out there and just know that you're going to get some steps in, you're going to finish off with a big old Greek food platter afterwards, then that's a good day for me.
Happy days, mate. Don't mind that.
Happy days.
Yeah.
Mate, so I've got a question for you around, you know, I'm in the process of putting out some free products and programs, and we kind of spoke about this a little bit before around how it can be quite difficult to put something out there that ticks a lot of boxes. And you've got your contact ready shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about the philosophy of that program. You know, what's important to you from like a rugby and a shoulder perspective of, you know, just making sure that somebody doesn't break when they go into contact.
Mate, it was quite a personal product that we had an idea about quite a while ago, but never actually brought it to fruition. And it was one of those things that we spent quite a few months just playing around with ideas, taking stuff from our own training. Now, a little bit of background: I've dislocated my shoulder twice. Charlie's dislocated his shoulder 4 times. We've had like 4 or 5 operations between us both. But we've kind of come over the other side of that now, and we've tried so much rehab, which has come from physios in the professional setting, private physios, learning off Eric Cressy, doing his, like, I think you've done it as well, is what was his program?
Sturdy shoulders.
Sturdy Shoulders, wasn't it? Was it Sturdy Shoulders?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sturdy Shoulders. And there's some absolute gold mines in there. And it was just almost piecing together what we really got on well with and what we thought worked. Now, we could probably make a 2.0 on it because we haven't really touched too much on it. But the contact ready shoulders is just a way of people that have had upper body injuries and shoulders, and how can we build some confidence? I think a lot of the issues is with shoulder injuries that I see is they rehab it, they get strong, but actually from a mental point of view, are they confident in chucking their shoulder into places that hurts? And I think a program has actually got to reflect that. And I think if you are literally just doing push-pull, external rotation, internal rotation, that is just not enough. So the shoulder is really based on that, or the program's based on that, and just making sure that those areas are covered. Actually, can I put my arm into a really vulnerable position, and can I co-contract really well and be confident at doing it? Can it move rapidly without feeling unstable. So we've kind of pieced together that program, and it's a 3-phase program. And actually it was a product to purchase to start with, and we had a few sales on it, but actually from a business side of view, thought actually there's so many people that might not pay for this, but they're going to want it. So that's why we use it as like a free downloadable. And people then got it then as a resource to go, right, actually my shoulder's just feeling a little bit banged up. I need to spend a little bit more attention to detail on that shoulder, greasing it up a little bit, giving it a little bit more attention. You can slot it in between sets or before your lift, and it's just a real versatile program that can be dropped in anywhere. With regards to, it doesn't matter if you're following our S&C program or your S&C program, it can be used anywhere. Pre-training, pre-contact drills, etc. So that was kind of the thinking behind it. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we make another one, mate. Because like I say, we were making it, and I was like, oh, I need to put that in. I need to put that in. Oh, I've missed that, and I just feel like I could write another program tomorrow on it, really, and probably clean it up a little bit. But I think from feedback, mate, that I've had, it's very positive. And again, a lot of what's in there has come from our experience firsthand of rehabbing a shoulder and getting it back to that high performing shoulder.
What is going on, guys? Quick break in today's episode for me to ask you for a favor. If you enjoy these episodes, please do share them with a friend, okay? We don't run any paid ads on this type of podcast, so it's all organic, okay? So the more you can share it with an individual or put it on social media, it really, really helps. So if you could do that for me, I'd massively appreciate it. And let's get back into the episode. It's super interesting, mate. Like actually writing a product like that it's always going to develop, and I think before you know it, you could write like a 900-page PDF of like, this is what's important for shoulders and these are the different scenarios. But as well as I do, it's like, well, 900 pages, they're just not going to read it. So it's like, well, you need to boil it down to like, what are the priorities that are going to tick most situations most of the time for most people? And hopefully you hit a good 80% of the people out there and solve their problems. If they're super complex, it's like, well, mate, you actually probably just need to work with somebody one-on-one and get some, individualized rehab. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at with things. I put out a program the other day on, it was specific to combat sports, and it was super, generalized, but generally how we train our amateurs and our pros, to be fair. And some of the questions we were getting were, quite out there, like, oh, can I split this session? Can I split that? And, very, just super individualized stuff. It needs a lot of customization. And ultimately, it's like, well, you just need to probably just get a coach for a little time just to get that scheduled there. Mate, so with that then, talk to me about co-contractions. This is something that I feel like is more popular nowadays than what it used to be. And I think that's probably, at least in my opinion, probably down to some of the work of David Gray, Dave O'Sullivan, people in that space that's really kind of popularized it, particularly around the lower body. I think that's kind of where it caught fire. Where does that play a part in your shoulder contact ready principle and your systems?
Yeah, it's just like viewing the whole thing as a chain. And, if you've got a weak link, then that chain is not going to work very well at all. So like I said before, I think if you're isolating the shoulder into just external rotations, internal rotations, now there's a place for that, but actually your shoulder issue could be coming from a lack of stability at your elbow or your wrist, and you're falling, and actually they're not able to contract properly to stabilize everything that comes above. So a big kind of focus on it is some floor-based work, and making sure, actually, I think it's a really good way to identify where the weakness is. If you're having to put some strain on wrist, elbow, and shoulder all at the same time, and then you start looking at what's going on, where is that weak link? And like you say, when you're hitting someone in contact, it's not a case of you're just isolating the rotator cuff, or you're just isolating your deltoid or your bicep or your pec. You've got to look at that whole chain and trying to bulletproof that. Now, I hate the word bulletproof, but it just fits so well. I think just making sure that actually everything can work together to stabilize that joint. And ball and socket joint, if you've got some shallow sockets, it's pretty unstable. So a bit more of a holistic approach and going, I'm not just going to isolate this one certain muscle group. Actually, how can we get them to intertwine and work together? And I think it's really important, mate. And I think what you'll see areas where people are very strong in certain positions, and then when you ask them to contract and stabilize that whole joint, they're just unable to do it. So it's giving them the challenges. I always start with floor-based work if they can, because I think that from a coaching point of view, you can probably use your coach's eye and see a lot of what's going on. You know, if they're trembling with their tricep or their bicep and they're shaking like a shitting dog, there needs to be work.
Yeah. And I'm going through a lot of similar stuff at the moment. I can't remember if we've spoke since this, but I tore my pec last year. And the rehab process has been pretty long, so I got to a good place. Probably 6 months after, I was like fully rehabbed. I was benching well. I could, drop to the floor, do an explosive press up from standing, like that type of thing. So I was able to handle collisions and handle contact and that rapid eccentric really, really well. I'm trying to remember what actually set it off. But basically started getting like some ugly nerve pain. It was horrible, mate. Like it felt like I'd torn my rotator cuff, actually.
Yeah.
We don't think that was the case. We think it literally just was the nervous system was like, okay, something's wrong here. I'm gonna be vulnerable with you. It was definitely my fault why my shoulder went shit, because I did the classic do as I say, not do as I do with an upper body session. I just went absolutely berserk and fucked myself up from a volume perspective. However, taking that into account, some of the rehab around this is very much based around, initially, it was just getting co-contractions, trying to get the pec working well, because, what we kind of figured out is it wasn't doing enough work in the chain. So if we're doing a press up, for example, it's going to be shifting load and it might go more to the tri or the shoulder or whatever. And, for people there that are trying to imagine how this works, if you kind of think you've got your arm, for example, and for argument's sake, we want the wrist to take 25%, we want the elbow to take 25%, and we want the shoulder to take 25%, and the neck or the traps to take 25%. If you have a avoidance strategy because you've had a previous injury, so for me, the pec, okay, well, actually, that shoulder doesn't want to take 25% anymore. It can only deal with 10%. Then before you know it, you've started loading up other structures. So it's no longer 25 at the wrist. It might be 35, okay? And then you start to have this, the body is such a good compensator. And I was having issues just in like really static basic positions of press up. So imagine putting me in a situation where you've got, 120 kilo meat ball running at you. It's not going to end well for you guys. So co-contractions, I'm a big fan. I definitely think we should do more of it. And I think the more you can do that now in your prep work, the preseason stuff, I think that's going to, have a lot of returns for you.
Yeah, mate, 100%. I think it's an interesting one, isn't it? Like when you are moving through an exercise, there's co-contractions happening all the time, but it's actually, can you stress it in certain positions? And that's where like I'll utilize longer isometrics in vulnerable positions. And like you say, when your arm's in that abducted position, what's taking the load? You'll be able to feel what's taking the load, and what's overworking. And like you say, it's just trying to identify that. And, you can see with your eyes. It's like when I get someone to do, I'm just trying to think now, even just like a push-up hold, I can tell what's taking the load, whether that's pecs that's coming in, whether that's shoulder, triceps, what's their scapula doing in regards to their rib cage, what's that relationship. And again, it does come down to that coach and eye, but also you'll be able to feel it yourself. It's normally what muscle fatigues first.
Yeah, 100%. Ollie, the physio, he is buzzing with anything that kind of elicits a shaking stimulus. He's buzzing, like that's his thing. Like S&C coaches, we probably just love seeing a really nice drop jump or a really nice plyo. It's like music to the ears. For him, it's like seeing a heel twitching on the floor because he's like, the nervous system's feeling something here. The nervous system's getting a very clear signal that it needs to do something different. And, central nervous system governing a lot of how we distribute force, particularly, when it's happening super, super quickly. So, yeah, man, I think that's cool. Next thing I want to chat through, just kind of moving on from that, is you mentioned around, viewing everything as a chain, and, you don't just see, a hamstring walking down the street. It's like, it's the whole body together. Core training, and I think, where do you sit with core training in general? But I think particularly around like rugby, like, do you include a lot of it? Is it just a little bit? Is it totally individual to that person? Just let's riff on that a little bit.
Mate, really good point. I think it plays a massive part because it's again, like you say, it's that key kind of link between generating force from the lower body and transferring it into the upper body. So for rugby, it's massive, and making sure that your core is there to transfer that energy and transfer that force. So you're always training it, really. If you're lifting well, you're lifting heavy, you are going to be training it in some aspect. Whether you're jumping, there's going to be core involvement, and then pretty much everything you do. But again, like, my outlook has probably changed a lot, mate. Like the classic Stu McGill, the big three, that was massive at Chiefs, and just making sure that we've got that. And now, actually, my probably way of training the core looks a little bit different now. Getting that spine to bend, mate, just our lateral flexion work. And that's something that I actually play a little bit of cricket, mate. So on a Saturday I play cricket, and just my lateral flexion work, I've been doing it because I'll be in absolute bits. I try and bowl a little bit of pace. And my kind of, oh mate, in my trunk on a Sunday morning is in absolute bits. But again, just incorporating bending the spine, rotating, moving it as much as possible is a great way to train it. And I think that's what I've probably incorporated a lot more. We'll still have our isometric work, whether that is a plank, whether that's a plank stir. Again, I try to, now this is probably going to sound a little bit strange, but I imagine you do it as well, but actually, how can I incorporate more directed core work with some shoulder work? So I'm actually working, two birds, one stone. Can we get some plank stirs in there? Can we go star plank, where we're actually having to challenge the shoulder as well, and not just the isolated movements, if you know what I mean? There's a place for them, but probably in my programming right now, they'll be integrated with some other movement, whether that's a lower body movement or an upper body kind of movement as well. Big fan of I'm a big fan of rotating under some resistance rather than it all being body weight. That's probably my biggest kind of thing that I'm kind of incorporating right now.
100%. I think, mate, you can do so many like floor-based exercises and plank-based exercises that really kind of get the shoulder working, like a single arm plank, just like fixed arm, and just actually maintaining a really good shoulder position. You got a little bit of protraction, you got a little bit of serratus going on. You're not just dumping into it like that. Playing around with your foot pressure so that it's not super wide and you're really kind of getting the most out of the obliques and, not hip shifting. It's brutal. You can then start working through that with some transfers to the other side. You can then open up. So now you're getting some rotator cuff stuff. Like, I think it's massively underrated. And I think it just ticks so many boxes from a localized muscular endurance standpoint around the core and the shoulder, but like you're then coordinating the full body on top of that thing, which just goes back to what we were saying before. Mate, that's probably, there was a quote in a Jimmy Carr podcast I was listening to the other day. It was The Diary of a CEO. It was his second episode. I don't know if you've listened to it, but it's absolutely unreal, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the second one's probably even better, actually. Like, for such a... I really like him. I'm a big fan, but he's a lot deeper than he seems on the surface, isn't he? And one of the things he says in it was like, one of his favorite questions is, what's something you've changed your mind on recently? And I think it might not be a recent thing, but, the core stuff for me is definitely different. Like, I was the bench squat deadlift guy, anything outside of what was going to support those lifts just wasn't really useful to me. And I think you get a lot of injuries, you get stiffness, you get all that type of thing just based on that's what you're training for. You're training for stiffness. So don't be annoyed when you are stiff. Like, that's the reality. Side bends, unreal. Jefferson curls, love it. Back bends, kind of, can you get yourself over a bench or over a Swiss board just to get some actual extension?
Yeah.
Do you do much like specific? So you mentioned the McGill Big Three, which is bear dog, side plank on knees, and what's the final one? Curl up.
Yeah,
it's like half sit up.
Yeah,
that's the one. Do you do much kind of local? Do you attack the core in that regards anymore, or is it all kind of a little bit more integrated?
Mate, like probably rather than like a specific curl up, I'd actually just change it into like a reverse curl up or like a hanging knee raise, something like that. I don't know if it was you actually, but the hanging knee raise with, I don't know if I saw it from one of your Instagrams. I can't remember if it was, but barbell with a foam roller and just placing it on your
Yeah.
lumbar as you do that hanging knee raise, you actually get a little bit of lumbar flexion. Absolute game changer. And it almost
Unreal.
assists. It almost assists with the grip as well, I find. So
Yeah.
mate, absolutely loving those. And mate, do you know what, the Parloff press gets absolutely slated now, and I get why it gets slated. Totally get it, but I think you do need to. There needs to be a learning process of being able to withstand force and being able to brace properly. So it
Hmm.
will be in there for me, but it will probably be there alongside something else. Whether
Yeah.
that's a chop at higher velocity or some kind of suitcase carry or something like that, it will be there as almost a primer for the high velocity chops, or suitcase
Hmm.
carry, for example, or side bends. But yeah, mate, I
Yeah.
think some isolated work, 100%, 100%, because I think the reverse curl ups, it's not just your lower abdomen. You're going to be working your hip flexors. You're going to get some decent grip strength gains as well. So I guess again, you're working other areas alongside it. Side plank, hip lifts, bits and bobs like that. Just trying to work that whole chain. Definitely, mate.
Mm.
Definitely.
There was I'm stealing this 100% from one of my pals, Sam Grady Graham, who works at GB Boxing, and they've done a decent amount of work around trunk and core in general. So this is definitely an idea stolen from him, who I
Mm.
think he stole it from somebody else, Alex Wolf. But around like core training in general. And they basically split it up into like quadrants, just from like a programming or a thought process, like decision making matrix standpoint. So if you can even view it as a little bit of a pyramid, actually. But I think if you go with a pyramid, you're more inclined to want to go up it rather than just actually attacking things.
Yeah.
So the first one they kind of speak about is around motor control and being able to stabilize. So in a lot of ways, that looks like the McGill Big Three. It's like, can you move certain parts of your core or your spine segmentally? Okay, can you do that? Can
Mm.
you resist motion segmentally? Can you do those things? So motor control being like the first step. Um, and it makes sense. You want people to be able to pelvic tilt in both directions. Can they hip hike? Can they do all those types of things? And with some of the research, is people that have lower back pain, they don't coordinate muscle activation in the same way that people that don't have lower back pain. So being able to get them to switch that on is like a really cool thing. So that's like your first quadrant. Second one was around muscular endurance / kind of hypertrophy. It's kind of the next stage up that pyramid, I guess, in a lot of ways.
Mm.
Like, do you have the localized muscular endurance in order to support you being able to produce force, resist force, hold positions through training, that type of thing? That's your planks. That's your side planks. Is anything that's like higher rep ranges, lower intensity type work. Movement as well as isometrics is super important there. Next stage up, we're just going through a linear periodization model for anybody that's kind of tracking this. Next stage up, that is strength work or high force work. Okay, can
Yeah.
you brace against a heavy barbell? You're doing your back squats, your RDLs, whatever that thing is. Can you brace against, if you're scrumming, in terms of like gym-based exercises, that might be your Electnas that you do for like 10 reps. It might be an ab rollout, which are fucking brutal if you've ever done those before. Like, they will wake you up in the middle of the night screaming because of abdoms. They have done for me. I really like a side plank where you get a heavy weight on your hips. Fucking load that up to 25, 30 kilo and let me know how you feel about it.
Yeah.
And then the next stage up, as you kind of just mentioned, there is power. Okay, so that's probably the one where we're like, okay, where is the transfer to this? That might be a wood chops, it might be a medicine ball stuff, it might be, I'm trying to think of it, sprinting is one of those. It's actually throwing the rugby ball. Like, that all
Mm-hmm.
comes into it. But the idea with the power stuff is you're a little bit more rest time, higher intensity, lower rep ranges to really challenge those things. So yeah, that quadrant, when I saw him explain it, I was like, you know what, that sits really well with me. And because I've always taken the approach, being super open about it, of kind of a shotgun approach to core training in a lot of ways, of like, I can't be 100% specific what core work you need without seeing you, obviously. So I just do a bit of everything year round. And that
Yeah.
kind of ticks a lot of my boxes. And I still do that. I'm 100% still in that band, but you might decide to do a little bit more work in one of those quadrants, depending on what you're trying to achieve. Any thoughts on that? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it really sings home. Actually, I think it's probably the take that I've got on it from what you've just said with regards to you may it may specifically work on a certain area, but again you're going to dip into those other areas as well. And I'm probably similar with regards to we'll probably start at the bottom of that quadrant or the bottom of the triangle as our main sole focus, but that doesn't mean that I probably won't go up it in that session. There may be drip fed in between compound lifts or as an accessory with one of my main lifts. Mate, 100%. I think you've got to challenge the core. I think if you're not challenging, you'll just remain the same. So it's actually can we brace first? If you can brace well, actually let's just start to challenge it a little bit more in a functional way and start to incorporate other movement patterns as well. I'm a big fan of it. I remember at Chiefs actually we were very kind of idolized on being able to hold a side plank for this amount of time and a normal plank on this amount of time, and that was the core work really. And then we probably didn't delve into actually training the core a little bit more functionally. I hate that word, but actually challenge it in different aspects. Because if you can side plank for a minute 30, you've got a decent amount of endurance there. Let's now start to challenge it in different ways. Like you say, add some weight.
And that's
is a
the thing,
great
mate.
way.
Yeah, 100%. And I've definitely fallen into this as well of just thinking, fuck me, it's just boring, But when you break it down, it's like it's literally the center part of your body. It is the connector between, the legs that you've worked so hard to get super strong and the upper body where you're going to try and either, palm somebody off or you're going to throw or whatever. So it makes sense to have that link as solid, robust and quick as possible, And I just think, probably super underrated. The barrier, and this probably comes down to us as coaches, I think, is putting it in the program in a place where they are definitely going to get it done. Because if it's like you've just smashed them for a full 90-minute session, and then we all do the classic, right? We're going to finish with some core boys. It's like some people love it; they go mad for it. Like I've actually never met people love core and arms as much as rugby boys approaching summer holiday. Like they go mad for it sometimes, but then sometimes they're not asked. If it's the end of a long day, they've been working 60 minutes in and out, and core is just not happening. So it's finding that place for it where it feels perfect. So it's not a faff.
When do you program it? When do you tend to put it in a session?
This is, I guess, I approach it from a standpoint of working with the individual. And that is like, if they never get it done, it's like, right, we're going to get it done first thing. Okay, you're going to do your warm up and then I'm going to hammer it first thing because that's important to us, if it's important to us at that point. Do that with a lot of the rowers that we work with because that is their thing. They're like, right, my core needs to be solid in order to produce force in the boat. Cool. So we do attack it early. With some of the rugby boys, we might actually just superset it. Okay, if they're going to do a bench press, if it's an upper body day, we'll do side planks or whatever that thing is. But then I do have some people as well where it does just happen at the end because it's one of those where I'm like, I want to do a bit, but I don't think it's more important than us doing your plyos, your lower body shit. What about you?
I'm a little bit at the start, or if it's not involved in that prep, it'll be at the end. But literally, it will be very much two sets on 3 exercises and a little circuit. Nothing too crazy, but again, something that's going to be more stabilized, movement based, and then a little bit of velocity as well. Just sprinkling it in, mate. That's what I tend to do. I don't want to just absolutely hammer people with 3 to 4 sets of exercise or of core exercise and then feel real sore. It's more a case of 2 sets, minimal dose, 2 to 3 exercises, and do it at the end. Hopefully, people do it at the end. But that's how I tend to go about it. If it's not in my
what's your work. Just going back to like muscle soreness. What's the worst muscle to be sore? What do you reckon?
Hammies, mate.
Hammies. Just gross. Yeah, just cuts you off, doesn't it?
Horrible. I've actually been. This is interesting. I've actually got a bit of a sore Achilles at the moment. I was on a stag do a few weeks ago, and we're probably about 12. We were in Dublin, and one of my mate goes, "Oh, Harry, I'll race you in a 20-meter race." So about 12 pints deep. no warm up, nothing. So just going against everything that I do anyway. Pissed on a on a stag do. Anyway, beat him. But mate, the next day, my whole ankle Achilles was just swollen, and now I've just adopted this like tendonitis in my Achilles, and that's pretty sore, mate. In the mornings, that's pretty sore. But I think hammies, for a Dom's point of view, is the worst one. I don't know. What about you?
Mate, just going back to that, there is nobody faster than somebody's had a few pints. Like, I swear, I don't know what it is. Like, I think, obviously, it might just be a perception thing of you feel rapid, but I genuinely think, like, there's something there. It's also, I think you're fitter as well. We used to, when we were younger, we'd go on a night out in Cleethorpes, which is probably like 4 mile distance from where I lived in Grimsby. You go on a night out and you're like, right, I've got £10 left at the end of the night. What am I doing? I could either get a taxi home and get into bed, or I could spend it on like a pizza. You're like, well, obviously I'm going to go for the pizza. Smash the pizza in. You'll do that in the kebab shop, and then you'll just run home. You know, we just get into the habit of just taking headphones. You know, if you're going to do if one of the lads had pulled or whatever, it's like, you're running home on your own anyway. So yeah, you take your headphones on a night out, knowing that you're just going to chug along to some, I don't even know what I would have been listening to at that age, Linkin Park, let's say. But yeah, there's nobody fitter than somebody that's had like a good few vodka Red Bulls in them.
Man, I want to know this science now, because I think you're right. You feel faster, don't you? Thinking about it, I don't know why, but I'd like to see the research on that. It'd be hilarious.
Yes, guys, what is going on? Quick break in today's episode for me to remind you about ADAPT's online strength and conditioning coaching. Our mission really is to make elite level strength and conditioning accessible to everybody. And our service does exactly that. So you get access to everything: an elite level coach, physiotherapist, psychologist, nutritionist, a community to keep you engaged. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is give you everything you would ever need in order for you to achieve your goals. So if that is something that you are curious about, get in contact and we'll just have a no pressure chat where I explain everything, find out a little bit more about you, and we can decide whether you are a good fit for our program. Okay, without further ado, let's get back into the episode. Cheers. Just arms flapping everywhere. Who knows? Yes, sore muscles. What am I saying? Mate, I just hate everything. Actually, I hate everything being sore except chest. If I get some nice chest arms, I'm like, oh yeah, go on then. Here's a bit of that. But I think glutes are good. Like glutes will annihilate you if you get some real deep glute DOMs. I think the first time I ever did hip thrusts, that ripped me off for about a week. Probably haven't done them much since. Like going back to FAF exercises, that's probably one of those for me. Like if you can have a glute hip thrust or whatever machine, unreal. Like we don't have one at our gym, unfortunately, but that's a game changer.
100%. I think I tend to stay away from programming it a little bit at the moment because, like you say, it's a faff. And if your gyms don't have a glute driver, then it is an absolute faff, especially if you're by yourself. When we were at Chiefs, we had these like roll-in things. So you put the bar in, and you as the S&C coach would literally just drive it into the person that's set up on the bench already. They unrack it, and it was great because you could have 4 stations of hip thrust. You know your boys are doing the hip thrust, so that's like a massive staple. But yeah, you don't have that luxury, unfortunately, in most of the normal gyms.
Yeah, it's one of those, because I think you can get strong. That's the thing. You can get super strong on a hip thrust, like 200 kilo. I think with a decent amount of training, like you're going to get there. And I think I might be wrong here, but I feel like I've seen like a 350 kilo hip thrust just from one of the rugby lads in the gym. Like it's possible. But then you've got the whole bastard of stripping it down, and that's then an issue. And it's like, at what point is that admin worth the adaptation that we might be getting, And I think, I'm not sure. Hip thrust machine, that's my go-to most of the time. If I have the option. Hinge work. Do you have like a preference? Are you an Olympic lifting guy? Are you an RDL guy? Are you just a whatever on the like whatever?
Probably all of the above, mate, actually. Yeah, I'm big lover of RDLs, whether that's B stance, normal, single leg. Big fan of it, mate. Mainly, probably delving into more David Gray work. It's more actually now, I love it for the hamstrings, but I love it for the hip. And when you see a good hinge is actually when that glute is expanding and you can see it almost just trying to come out of that socket. And that's where I really, that gets me going. That does, mate. I hate RDLs where you just see the knees just coming forward. And you're not actually hinging. You're doing a conventional deadlift. That bugs me. But you'll probably see I've done a lot of. Big fan of Nordics, but I feel like Nordics obviously are a bit more knee dominant. But I've been playing around with like razor curls, Harrop curls, and like the hinging aspect in a Harrop curl, mate. I'm doing Harrop curls now, and the amount of glute activation and just glute DOMs I'm getting from it is absolutely amazing. With like training the hamstrings, I'll make sure in majority of my programs there's one hip dominant and one knee dominant hamstring exercise. But again, the hip dominant is probably going to come in shape of an RDL or a Harrop curl. They're my two go-tos at the moment. I think RDLs will always stay in there, mate. Just from that like length tension relationship, that's massive. Long and strong hamstrings, you can't go wrong. If you're constantly shortening, I think you're probably opening a can of worms.
Yeah, and I think with like going back to the Harrop kills and even with the RDO, the hinge stuff, I think the thing that a lot of people tend to get wrong, at least from my perspective, is just getting a decent set position, rib cage over hips, just making sure that they've got some good relationship between there. They're not just cranking on that lower back. We've probably all seen an example of a Nordic done terribly where it's, arse is just up in the air. They've got a huge half pipe as a lower back. And it's like, that's not the one for you. It takes a little bit of figuring out, I think if you don't have that positional sense, going back to some of the core work that we spoke about before, the McGill Big Three, Happy Cat, Sad Cat, pelvic tilts, and just to really get some solid awareness around, what your lower back is doing and how to get it to not relax, but not be, so loud in every movement that you do is probably a really good call for you.
Mate, yeah, 100%. Because I think that can be almost it can affect everything else that goes on. Actually, you're probably taken away from what the exercise is trying to target. And like you say, if your lumbar looks like a bloody boomerang, your hamstrings probably aren't going to be getting the stimulus that it needs. And it's just ways that how we can train that and how we can prescribe that to make sure that those boys and girls are getting the right stimulus at the right time and they're getting the most from the exercise. I think some of like the kickstand positions, I call what's the David Gray like kickstand hinge where he goes into like that I call it a Terminator. But I love it, mate, as like a glute warm up. They'll just do a few body weights, squeeze the orange in the foot, press through the laces, and actually it sorts a lot of people's kind of lower back awareness when they then go and RDL or they go and do some kind of power clean or that kind of example. Now, I'm a big fan of Olympic lifts. And I suppose you are getting your hinge positions from there. I'll play around with it and I'll program it for people that want it, but also people that maybe want to learn it as well. Because some people probably haven't been exposed to what you find is, I don't know about you, but you find obviously in-person coaching, it's brilliant because you can coach them there and then. Whereas online, it's a little bit difficult to probably coach an Olympic lifter, making sure they're doing it. However, I always advise people to film, compare. I'll then chirp in with some coaching points. But I think it's a great tool, mate. If you can learn it and have it in your toolbox, then it's going to be probably pretty paramount in the program for sure.
Yeah, I like it. Do you are you more of a proponent of cleans over snatches, or will you go down the snatch route as well, or is it just totally dependent on the person?
Probably dependent on the person. If they've had experience doing snatches, I'm more than happy to program that in. Probably from my experience, I just prefer clean. I'm probably contradicting myself now, but just for the old snatch position, the shoulders, I've seen so much. But again, if you can, let's do it. As long as you haven't had past history of dislocating during a snatch, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you, mate. I think from like a face-to-face perspective, when I teach the Olympic lifts, I go down the route of teaching the snatch first, just because I feel like the positions that you hit are very similar. The only difference being, the arm or the grip width on the actual bar, which changes where that power position or jump position is. So in the snatch, it's going to be in the hips, and the cleans, it's going to be like, top 20% of the thigh, whatever you're going to be working with. I think if you can get somebody doing a really nice technical snatch and then move them onto cleans, it's like the easiest thing in the world to transition over to. But yeah, I think if I'm going for pure stimulus, then I'm probably most bothered about the clean. You know, you can get
Yeah.
like a lot more weight on there, relatively safer. You know, and I know, yeah, it is. You know, let's just say how it is. I'm more comfortable somebody catching in the front rack than I am catching overhead,
Yeah.
and I just prefer that. And obviously, the more weight, potentially more adaptation, depending on what you're trying to go with. Because I don't think if there's less weight, you know, if, let's say a 40 kilo snatch versus, I don't know, 100 kilo clean, you can start making the argument of like the force velocity curve of like, you know, it's not a different adaptation. People don't move faster. Like you don't
Mm.
move faster with a 40 kilo snatch than you would a 100 kilo clean anyway, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So I don't think there is really that rationale. Just bloody dropped a load of words on you there, mate, but I just kind of going through some thoughts in my head.
No, mate, I agree. I think what you said actually about teaching a snatch first is quite important, because I actually find sometimes when I teach the clean first, people forget about actually finishing that last pull and they go straight to the catch. I think with the snatch you can't do that. You've got to finish that pull. So actually automatically they're probably getting into that triple extension position they want, and they're creating that vertical force. Like you say, I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people when they first do Olympic lifts, they go straight to the clean, they probably forget that, and then they go too far down the line, and actually to then reteach that getting into that extension position is quite hard. So I do think actually, can you teach the snatch first, whether that's just with a barbell, get some actually finishing off that last pull, because I think that's actually
Mm.
one of the most important parts of the clean or the snatch is that pull and that aggressive pull.
For sure. I mean, it's probably one of my favorite things to teach, to be honest, or like
Mm,
coach. Like I buzz from it. Like um, just being able to get somebody to actually do some form of snatch. You know, it might be a high hips power snatch, it might be a hang snatch or whatever. I think you can do it if you've got like a good system in place. I think you can get them doing it with the bar in like fucking 10 minutes. Like just work through your progressions, and got them all written out. So it's just like a step by step process. Move on when
mm,
it looks decent and it looks safe. But I think it's a really cool thing for people to do. And I think it's just a little bit of variety in somebody's program that, you know, take the adaptation out of it. It's like when there's always a number that rationalizes whether it's been a good or a bad session. It's like, oh, my back squat's up today or it's down today. It's like,
yeah,
fuck, okay. It's actually quite refreshing just to have an exercise that's skill or fluidity based, you know, and that's essentially what sport is a lot of the time, isn't it? You know, and I think that's where gym work can be a really nice breakup for some people that are so on that skill spectrum of sporting, is having something where they can be like, okay, boom, this is me progressing.
mate. 100%. I think that really rings home. I think people can get too caught up probably on numbers of back squat, bench, deadlift, and all these main lifts, and then they've got nothing else. So I think that sprinkle in of that little bit of fun, skill kind of element makes a big difference. I was just thinking, actually, even if you're not snatching, just a dumbbell snatch, it's an easy one. It's such an easy one to
Mm-hmm.
teach. You're going to get the same kind of transfer in more of a unilateral fashion, which is excellent. But like you say, like going back to the speed stuff, actually get someone training that they actually feel like an athlete in the gym goes a long way. If they're just going in and doing
Mm-hmm.
their heavy lifting and are not moving at any velocity or any plane of motion, it's all just up and down, up and down. Actually, having that sprinkle in again takes the focus off just being a little bit hooked on what numbers you're lifting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I'm all in. I'm all with that. I'm all
Yeah,
with it, mate. Right. I've got one last thing for you. Preseason tips. What have you got for the rugby players out there?
big preseason tips. Biggest, going to be repeating myself here, but just making sure that they've got a structure in place, because Tuesday, Thursdays are going to come around and they're going to be hard, and you're going to be on your feet. You're going to be exposed to a lot of external stress, whether that's mental, physical. You know, you're training for an hour and a half, you're getting absolutely rinsed by the coaches. Just making sure that you're allowing enough time and recovery between those sessions. So a big one for me is I would not be doing any heavy lower body lifts between a Tuesday and a Thursday gym session. So on a Wednesday, for example, I'm probably going to be staying away from lower body lifting because I think your legs are going to be fried. And we had preseason last night. I don't want to be doing lower body today. upper body pump, lovely.
Hmm.
I'll feel fresh for Thursday, and I may push my lowers back to Saturday or even Friday evening, if I can, for example. So just making sure that you've got structure. Another thing is probably making sure that you're hitting your speed 1 to 2 times a week. You may do it in training, but again, you may come unstuck. So making sure that you're working on that technical aspect of speed to skill. So making sure that you're giving it some time either in the gym or pre-warm up and you're doing your extras there. And then just making sure that you're not underfueling yourself. I think a lot of people will come unstuck when obviously it's summer around the corner and they'll be in a little bit of a calorie deficit, which is fine. But on your training days, you need to be making sure that you're fueling yourself for that evening session. And because otherwise you'll be dehydrated, you'll be feeling fatigued. When you're feeling fatigued, your decision making goes down the pan, and then you're opening yourself up to that kind of risk of injury. So just making sure that you're fueling yourself well. But yeah, main thing is just finding that structure. And I think everything else kind of sits into it and fits into it quite nicely.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, mate.
other,
I'm on you with all those. Like,
yeah, I think other
go
things
on.
as well is probably another main one is actually having a little bit of care. Obviously, off season, you're really trying to make some progressive gains, and it's that time that you really want to adapt. That doesn't mean just because you're in pre-season, you're training, you can't do that. So it's still the mindset of going, if I'm wanting to gain size, we're still targeting that, or I want to get stronger and powerful. You're still going to be doing that in the gym. However, that volume of gym work might just come down a little bit to allow for it. So just making sure you're plugging those gaps if you want to, and that kind of fits your goals. And then yeah, that's kind of the main things, mate. Really, I think also just keeping on top of key injury sites as well. You're going to be exposed back into contact after 8 weeks. You're going to be making sure that you're keeping on top of your neck, your shoulder, ankle, knees, just giving yourself a little bit more attention to detail around those key areas, and making sure that they're ready to kind of withstand the demands, because it won't be long before bags are taken away and you're doing bone on bone contact, getting yourself ready for the first preseason game. So whether that's a case of you doing some more technical work out on the field, or that's a case of you extending your primers or your prep work before gym and just ticking those boxes, whether that's some net curls, some banded net rotations, your shoulder work, contact ready shoulders, your calf, your isos, that kind of thing.
Man, I'll put the link in. I'll put the link in the show notes for that, because people need to get it. But no, I think you're right. I think one of the things, at least we experienced this last year, is like, from a rugby standpoint, is the stubbornness to not want to change out of the actual off-season programming that you've put there. You know, it's like, I want to squeeze out every last week of getting bigger or whatever that thing is. And it's like, you're dealing with different things now. You can still get those gains. You can still like push towards that goal. But you don't want to set off the season with an injury. And I think I think sometimes as athletes, we are probably the biggest injury risk to ourselves, is because we make silly decisions sometimes. And we all do it. It's not to call anybody like, we all make daft judgment calls. But I think, yeah, just be ready with the structure that you've pre-made. But I think having a little bit of auto-regulation there of like, if your legs feel absolutely wank, okay, well, maybe don't do that heavy back squat RDL session that you had programmed. Push it back a day, reduce the intensity, speak to your coach about it and see what the next best thing is going to be.
Yeah, 100%. I think as well, it's making those decisions on, actually, you need to be a little bit instinctive, and you know your body better than anyone. Like, I know if I'm going to be sore, and I know if I'm going to be sore tomorrow from what I've done today. So yeah, just making those decisions and taking those decisions into your own hands isn't a bad thing. And your structure can change, because the first week of preseason might be a massive wake up call, and you might need to change it. You don't have to stick with it just because you think you're going to get used to it 2 to 3 weeks down the line. You might need someone to just have a look at what you're doing, what volume you're doing. And I think the biggest thing is, a lot of people go, I found my structure, this is what I'm going to do. But actually, if you're sore as hell come Friday and Saturday and you're not squeezing much out your gym session, actually, you're probably doing too much at the start. So get someone to have a look at it. Do you know what I mean? Get a coach to run, and I don't mind doing it. I get so many people message me about, what do you think about this split? What do you think about that split? I don't mind answering, but just the split isn't always the be all and end all. It's actually what's in the split. It's what's in the potion, isn't it? Like, what's in that mix to make up that split. The devil's in the detail, the prescription, the volume, the intensity. if you're doing 5 sets of 8 back squat on a Monday, you might want to tone that down a little bit if you're training Tuesday and Thursday, and then expected to run fast as well.
Yeah. No, I agree, mate. I think that's a really nice point to finish on. Actually, I got one more for you. What's your favourite film? What's your favourite go-to film?
Good one. Mate, Dumber and Dumber. It's a classic for me. It's a bit of a family favourite. You know, if we're all round at Christmas, so there's a film to put on, it's Dumber and Dumber. I've watched it about 15 times, and you know it never gets old. So yeah, Dumber and Dumber, mate. I'm a big Lloyd Christmas fan. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
Love it. You look like Lloyd Christmas, so we'll go with that. What's mine? Mate, I love Superbad. I think Superbad just... I can remember going to the cinema when it first came out, so it would have been 15. I would have been 15 then. That's sick. I love Step Brothers. Yeah, something in that ball. Dodgeball, actually. Dodgeball's unreal. So anything with Ben Stiller, I think he's insane. I think he's so good. Just comedies, mate. That's me.
To be fair, I love... I really liked Hunger Games. And what else did I like? The Wakanda? Avengers? No, Avengers.
The Black Panther.
Black Panther, mate. Wakanda Forever. That one, mate. I absolutely love that film.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big sci-fi kind of fan, but really good, mate. But again, comedy. If it is funny and I'm laughing, I'll watch it.
You're all in. Nah, sick. Buzzing, mate. Right, thank you very much for your time today. So what I'll do is I'll grab those links for Contact Ready Shoulders. If people want the freebie of the little add-ons they can add into their S&C program, I'll grab the link for the group coaching and put that down there below, and then all your social media stuff as well. So yeah, really appreciate your time, mate. This is absolutely sick. I keep saying to Jake, we need to do the threesome. We need to get the three of us on a podcast. I haven't actually done it on Riverside yet, so that'll be a good little test of my technical skills.
Yeah.
That'll be sick. I think that'll be a nice group one to do.
Mate, 100%. I think you can do freeway on here, can't you? Pretty certain you can. And
I'm pretty sure you can.
Yeah. It just may be a test.
I get really scared.
Yeah, mine and Jake's Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Buzzing. Mate, once again, thank you very much. That was sick. Okay, that is the end of today's episode, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you did, please do let us know and then share it with somebody who may find this episode interesting. Okay, see you next time. Cheers.